all the cleaning is done by me. And don't you dare talk about the kitchen as if you don't march in there and eat everything you can get your grubby hands on after everyone is asleep.
I'm not doing a woman's job, and as if I'd eat your cooking. Ken, you made a massive mistake marrying this bitch. I hit him as hard as I could. I feel bad now, looking back on it. I'm sure my kids were watching, and I think I still had some of the adrenaline from my house being on fire. But we had our fight on the front lawn, rolling around, punching each other.
Hello, my name is Sarah, and I'm a stay-at-home mother of 2. My husband Ken and I got married 4 years ago just after college. I should mention that Ken's family has always been terrible. His father died of alcoholism when he was young, and his mother, Leah, always hated me for stealing her baby boy away from her. His brother only ever calls my husband to ask for more money to support his sports gambling addiction or pay off bad debt, despite working full-time in construction. Even at our wedding, his family kept making offhand comments about my dress or how bad the food was, as if they were ready for it to be over. To say that they are a nightmare in my life is an understatement, but we only have to deal with them around the holidays. It came as no surprise when we heard that Ken's brother Sam lost his construction job and was evicted from his apartment soon after. In fact, we had expected it. Sam was always horrible with his money and spending habits. It wasn't until his mother turned up at our front door telling Ken to let him stay with us that I realized how naive I was. If only I knew then what would happen afterwards.
You're the older brother. It's your responsibility to look after your younger brother.
He's almost 35 years old. It's his own fault that he got himself into this mess.
It doesn't matter how. What matters is that it's your responsibility. You have a spare couch in the living room, don't you?
Mom, I'm not having my kid's uncle crash in the living room. That's not right.
So you would rather have him sleep on the street?
That's not what I meant.
Good. I'll tell him to pack his things.
Sam was always the slob of the family, and that was saying something. I don't think he's ever owned a piece of clothing that wasn't either stained or torn. My fear of him sleeping in the living room was imagining my kids wading through the trash and tripping over stray pillows he'd leave around just to get to the kitchen. Within 2 hours of my mother-in-law appearing at our front door, he pulled up the driveway in a badly damaged and smoke-stained car that looked like it was on its last legs. She must have called him as soon as she left to tell him to drive over. It looked like he had been living out of his car for the last few days.
Hey, buddy. Thanks for letting me stay with you until I'm back on my feet. Here, can you carry this inside?
Oof, this is heavy. What's in here?
Oh, just an old comic book collection. You have space for it, don't you?
I looked at my husband, but he just shrugged. His car was packed with loose belongings, things that wouldn't even sell at a garage sale. Lots of trash mixed in with old jackets and boxes that smelled like cigarette smoke. Some of the neighbors started watching us unpack his car, and I felt embarrassed by it. I told myself that it was only for a little while and that we'd do the same for my family. We piled his stuff in the corner of the living room, agreeing to find a better place to store it in the morning. It nearly overflowed onto the floor, and I half thought about setting up the kids' safety gate around it just to contain it all. It was already almost dinner time, and I hadn't started cooking yet. Ken went upstairs to get spare pillows and blankets. I went into the kitchen to start preparing the meal, and Sam followed me in.
So, what's for dinner?
I'm just making a simple lasagna. It's the kids' favorite.
Lasagna is my favorite too. I doubt you could make it better than my mom, though.
Better than Leah? I can certainly try.
I doubt that. From what I can tell, you've never been a good cook.
Excuse me?
Here you go. A place to sleep for the night.
Ken came down with the supplies and brought Sam into the living room. I pulled Ken aside afterwards and told him what Sam had said, but he insisted I don't take it to heart. His family had always said harsh things, and they didn't mean it to be insulting. I sighed and let it go. For the first little while of him staying, I thought that maybe I had overreacted. Maybe I would feel better about him staying after he showered. After all, he was my husband's brother, and it was the right thing to do. Those thoughts went out the window after dinner. I always set my lasagna on the stove to rest after I take it out of the oven, and I left the room. When I came back, over half of it was gone. There was barely enough left for me and the kids. When I asked Sam about it, he denied eating any and said it must have been the kids. It continued like that over the weekend and into next week. Food around the house would go missing, the bathroom would be left a stinking disaster, and Sam would reuse old clothes instead of doing laundry. Can you ask him how long he plans on staying for? It's already been 2 weeks and I don't think he's applied to any jobs.
Yeah, I can do that. Is he bugging you that much?
Well, I'd certainly like my living room back. I'm afraid to even go into it when he's not there, and he stays up watching TV so late that the kids have a hard time sleeping from the noise. You already told him last week to keep it down. Also, could you tell him to stop smoking in the house? The other day I caught him napping on the sofa while holding a lit cigarette.
Good point. I'll talk to him in the morning. Hey, how's it going? Going good. How about yourself? Good. Listen, I need to talk to you about some stuff. How long are you planning on staying for? Have you applied to any jobs yet? Dude, you don't have to be an asshole about it. You want me to be homeless? You think it's easy to get a job? That's not what I said. I'm asking a simple question. Why don't you ask your wife to get a job? Why can't she help out around here? Half the time, the kitchen isn't even cleaned properly. What does she do all day anyways? First of all, leave her out of this. Second, you don't do anything all day either. When was the last time you left the house, besides doing a beer run? I haven't seen you move from that couch. You spend all day watching reruns and football. You need to get it together. Also, can you stop smoking in the house? It's a fire hazard. I was infuriated. I stormed away and marched upstairs, and by the time I was back in my bedroom, I already had a missed call from my mother. She yelled at me for what I said to my brother, calling me inconsiderate and cruel. I told her that it wasn't right and that I had a family to take care of. She argued back that we are your family and that your wife is just your wife. At this, I was so angry, I hung up the phone. When I went downstairs, I found Sam had already started drinking, smoking, and watching TV again, and ignored me.
I woke up in the middle of the night to the smell of smoke. I jumped out of bed, faster than I could wake up, and raced out the bedroom door. Already, the top floor was a haze of thick black smoke, and I started coughing. I called for Ken to wake up, and I went into my kids' rooms to wake them up. I put both on either shoulder, carrying them downstairs, covering their mouths with their pajamas. When we were outside, I put them on the lawn and turned around. The house was on fire, spreading from the kitchen to the living room and crawling up the inside of the windows. Smoke poured out from the front door. The heat and smoke made my eyes water, and I wasn't sure how I hadn't noticed it while I was still in the house. A moment later, Ken and Sam came through the front door. My kids ran up to hug my husband, and Sam looked in disbelief back at the house. Immediately, I accused him.
It wasn't me. Maybe if you had kept the kitchen in better shape and cleaned up once in a while, nothing would have set on fire.
Excuse me? Don't dare talk about the kitchen or shift blames. You most have caused this with a cigarette in your hand when you fell asleep. And as for the kitchen, you've never even offered to help with the dishes, let alone clean up after yourself. All the cleaning is done by me. And don't you dare talk about the kitchen as if you don't march in there and eat everything you can get your grubby hands on after everyone is asleep.
I'm not doing a woman's job. And as if I'd eat your cooking. Ken, you made a massive mistake marrying this bitch. I hit him as hard as I could. I feel bad now, looking back on it. I'm sure my kids were watching, and I think I still had some of the adrenaline from my house being on fire. But we had our fight on the front lawn, rolling around, punching each other. I don't remember how long we rolled around, but it took 2 of the neighbors and a few firemen to pull us apart, so I knew it lasted until the firemen got there. After that, we gave our statements to the police, and the firefighters put out what remained of our home. The top floor was gone, including all of the kids' belongings. We got set up in a nearby hotel, without Sam, and tried to sleep away the few hours left of the early morning. I stopped responding to my mom's phone calls, and I blocked my brother soon after.
From what we're told after, the fire had been started from a lit cigarette that was left unattended. Sam apparently had lit it, and then forgotten about it and went to sleep. It had apparently fallen on garbage that he had left on the kitchen table, and had ignited. It took over pretty quickly from there. We were told that we were lucky to have made it out alive. The worst of it was smoke inhalation for Ken and Sam, which resulted in some small coughing from my husband and numerous phone calls from my mother-in-law complaining about what a horrible mother I am and what I had done to her son. Soon afterwards, we decided to go out of state and get new jobs. We didn't hear much from his family after that, and we enjoyed the peace and quiet to settle down. Obviously, we had no intention of ever contacting them again either, and we believed we could never forgive either of them for their actions and their words. However, what Sam had said to me stuck with me, and I developed insomnia. The therapist that I talked to said that it was to be expected from house fire victims and would fade with time. We knew we couldn't sue Sam for physical or emotional damages since he was bordering on bankruptcy at any moment. But we were happy enough to never speak to him again anyways. We later found out that Sam had used up the rest of his mother's savings, trying to pay off his sports gambling debts. Leah ended up having to sell her house just to make enough for retirement. It had been over a year, and now they both live together in a trailer park, and my mother-in-law and Sam have to pick up a minimum wage jobs to make ends meet. I hear they flip burgers in a tiny restaurant, while our family lives in a larger house than we had before with mountains all around. The greatest part is that we'll never have to see them again. Thanks for watching. Make sure to subscribe and leave a comment down below saying, "I subscribed," and we will try our best to reply to your comment.